Okay, for this next practice, we are going to be on page 12 in our folders. Okay, I made a copy of it. So you're also going to need your colored pencils, so we can take those out. And you might want to grab your sharpener and maybe like a Ziploc bag to sharpen your pencils into, so you don't have to run to the trash every time. So we are going to focus on this big pencil here. Some of the things that I want to talk to you about with colored pencil is how you can mix, layer, and blend it to create different values, okay? So I'm going to start with my lightest color here, which is yellow, and I'm going to start with just a nice light overall layer. Okay, so I'm not pressing very hard. You'll notice I am also using my same grip that I use when I shade with graphite. So I'm using the side of the lead. Again, I'm not pressing hard, I'm doing a light layer. Now, if you want a very bright highlight, you could leave the white of the paper showing through. So like right here, I could leave the white kind of showing through here, but I'm not gonna worry about it for this one. I'm working with such a light value, okay? So when you have something that's round like this, one of the easiest ways to create kind of that sense of dimension is to make the edges darker and the inside lighter. So one of the ways that we can do this is by pressing a little bit harder. So I can take and press really firmly along my edge here. You can see it's making it a lot darker, right? So sometimes we have to use kind of an imaginary light source, right? So we're picturing this as if our light's coming like down on the objects or maybe slightly from above and down, okay? As you're trying to figure out where to place your lighter and darker values, consider what part of the object goes back in space. That's more likely to be in shadow and to use darker values. The part of the object that sticks out or is higher is more likely to catch the light and have highlights. So that's going to be your lighter values. So then the next thing that I need to do is I need to blend this. We don't want it to look like an outline. So one of the things that I can do is use the side of my pencil and just do some light layers. So I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just going to start to build up a medium value. So our goal here is to create almost like a gradient where it goes from dark to medium to light. So we have our darkest value on the outside edge, our light value in the middle where we did our light layer. Now we're just building it up with lots of light layers so that it has a smooth change where that edge starts to disappear into the light. We want to avoid stripes or outlines with our darker value. Now, one of the other things that I can do to help create this sense of dimension and value is I can also layer other colors with it. So if I take my orange here, I'm going to work with a lighter pressure and go back over my yellow areas. So I'm pressing just slightly harder in the darker areas, but keeping it very light in the lighter areas of my yellow. Remember, when you layer and mix colors, you definitely want to use a lighter pressure so the color doesn't take over the whole area. By adding an additional color over the top, it helps to add depth and interest in the color. It helps our values feel more rich. If it feels like you're seeing too much of your second color, like the orange, or the second color is too bright, you can go back over it with your original color, in this case, which would be the yellow. And this acts like a blender. We don't have a white blender like we do with our graphite pencils, but by layering them and going back over with our original color, we can treat it almost like a blender. Okay, if you notice you are seeing lines while you're shading, it might be the surface that you are coloring on. So you might put something underneath your paper so you're not picking up any of the lines of your tabletop. When I get to the lead of the pencil, I use my black colored pencil and I do the same process. So a light layer of value to create my lightest gray areas, so I'm not pressing very hard there, and then pressing harder on the outside edges, and then doing some light layers in between to build up that medium value. Now, to add some interest, I could choose to work with my blue or my purple and layer those over the black, so it's not just one black value, right? And then let's do some lighter gray up here, like where the silver would have been. So for this area, I'm using a very reduced pressure. I'm not pressing hard at all because I want this to appear silver. Keep in mind as you're coloring, try to keep your coloring going the same direction. Avoid scribble marks. If you're seeing a lot of lines in your color, you might try doing like a small circular motion. Sometimes that helps. Go slower. Try to stay in the lines. So you can go through the same process. You might test out your colors ahead of time to see if you just need less pressure or if you like a different colored pencil. Again, start with a light layer of value, then really build up the edges to create that darker layer, and then go over with light layers to create that medium value as well. Okay, so I've got my pencil colored in. Let's try what it would look like with a geometric form, okay? So if we think about our light coming from up here, and if it helps, you can even kind of do like a sun here on your paper. So I'm going to say it's coming somewhere from around like the name area. Okay, so if we think about that, that would make this top part the lightest, this would be medium, this would be my darkest. Okay, so let's pick a color here. I'm gonna go ahead and do like a green. When I start to shade this form, again, I'm holding my hand kind of sideways so I can use the edge of the lead. Okay, I'm doing a nice soft light layer. So for each side, I am changing my pressure. So I'm keeping it really light for this top area. When I get to the medium side, I increase my pressure just a little bit. And then on the darker side, I press a lot harder. One thing I want to mention, if you have your own colored pencils, you are welcome to use yours. You do not have to just use the ones that are in your art kit. Now for my darkest side, I could take the black colored pencil and do a light layer over the top to help it feel even darker. And then I can go back over my medium green once with my green colored pencil. Where the hole is at in my form, I would use my darkest value because that area is in shadow. So I would do a dark layer of green and then add the black over the top of it. And if I wanted to make the top a little bit more rich and inviting, I could even take and do just a little bit of yellow. Remember, keep your pressure nice and light so your yellow doesn't overpower your green. And if you feel like it does look a little bit too yellow, you can always go back over with your green one more time. You can repeat this process with the rest of your forms. Remember to do light layers of value, build up your different values, go slowly, take your time to stay in the lines, make sure you're coloring in the same direction, don't scribble, take time to layer your colors to make them nice and rich and interesting, and really challenge yourself to create rich, deep values that help to show the depth of your objects. If you have any questions, please ask.